Hi everyone, my name is Ren from Quicksave Interactive. In this tutorial, we will be discussing how to use the grid node in the UI editor. As its name suggests, the grid node can be used to create 2D grids of rows and columns. Let's look at the UI editor and how we can accomplish this. Within this new game container, I will go to the node type dropdown in the hierarchy panel and select the grid node type. I will then click the add node button. I will name this grid map grid. By default, our new grid node is located in the upper left-hand corner of the parent container. Therefore, I would like our grid to be in the center of the parent container. So I will set the anchor to 0.5 on both the X and the Y, and I will set the parent align to also be 0.5. So now you can see our map grid node is in the center of the game parent node. I would also like the grid to be of a fixed size, so our grid does not resize itself if the view width or height should change. So for the size property, I will set the X to 800 pixels and the Y also to 800 pixels. And now we have our empty grid node. In order to populate our map grid node, we need to add a few child nodes to it. I will go to the hierarchy panel, and in the node types dropdown, I will select the container node type. I will then add the node as a child to our map grid node. I will call it item, since it is an item of our grid. It would also be great to have a visual element to our item so we can see the item itself. Therefore, as a child of the item node, I will add a linear gradient node type. And I will call this linear gradient node type item background. I will then make this item background a solid color by removing the fill colors here and setting the parent size to 1 by 1. So now we can see we have one singular grid item in our map grid node. Moving back to our map grid node, in the properties we have this grid property. It is currently set to 1 by 1. We can use this to increase the number of rows and columns we have in our grid. Let's set this to a 5 by 5 grid. And by clicking on the grid in the view panel, we can see we now have a grid of 5 by 5 items. Let's add some spacing between each of our grid items so we can see each item without having to click on the grid in the view. In our item node, we can go to this parent size property and set the X value and the Y value to 0.85. And now we have a gap between each of our grid items, which in my opinion looks much better. This is an example of a static grid, which does not change its number of rows and columns. There is also the possibility of creating dynamic grids, which can be populated and resized based on its content. But that will be for a later, more advanced tutorial. I highly encourage you to experiment with the grid node type. It can be used to create button layouts, lists, and even interactive game maps. I also highly recommend that you subscribe to the Quicksave YouTube channel and stay up to date with our documentation website where you can find more tutorials just like this. Thank you for watching and see you again next time.